Hi, I'm Katrina Ayala, and this is my set design for the 2021 competition. Joe Turner's Come and Gone is the second play of August Wilson's 10-play cycle, called the Pittsburgh Cycle, that portrays the lives of African Americans through an entire century. Set in 1911, in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, we're introduced to a boarding house owned by Seth and Bertha Hawley. In Act 1, Rutherford Slegg, the only character distinguished as racially white, arrives to order dustpans from Seth, who works at the nearby mill as a craftsman. At the dining table sits Bynum, a long-term resident of the Hollies, who begins to speak an adventure he once took up where the river where he found the Shining Man, who offered to tell him the secret of life. This encounter enables Bynum to see the ghost of his father, telling him to find his song in life. Later on, Bynum explains his song, or the way of his soul, is the binding song, which he uses to bind people to one another. The same day, Harold Loomis, dressed in a large coat and grasping the hand of his daughter, Sonia, arrive at the boarding house, looking for a place to stay. He is welcomed. However, Seth continuously suggests that there is something odd about the new guest. When Seth returns to pick up his order of dustpan, Loomis asks Seth to find his wife, named Martha. Meanwhile, throughout the play, the additional residents, all in their mid-20s, named Jeremy, Maddie, and Molly, interact with one another and become a part of the daily life at the boarding house. One night, after everyone has finished dinner, they entertain themselves by performing an African song and dance. Upon entering the scene, Harold Loomis demands them to stop. Supposedly intoxicated, he goes into a trance and begins to talk in tongues and falls onto his knees. He starts to recall a hallucination of bones wrapped in flesh emerging from the ocean, before being calmed down by Bynum and taken upstairs. Act 2. Seth informs Loomis he is expected to leave the boarding house by next week, believing he had been drunk during his episode and wouldn't tolerate such shenanigans. When the day to leave arrives, Martha Pentecost, or Martha Loomis, enters. To start off, I'm going to address the significance of each part of the set. This corner of the kitchen, at the stove, is where Bertha cooks morning meals and her specialty biscuits. It's important to know that where she stands while cooking has to allow her to look out into the yard, where on occasion Bynum will be seen digging up weeds or burying pigeons. Additionally, the yard is where Zonia spends her free time and eventually meets Reuben, the neighbor boy she becomes close friends with. In certain scenes, they sit on the cellar doors. Seth frequently exits and enters through the yard door himself, as the mill he works in is imagined to be off stage. The dining room is the most essential part of the set for conducting the play. For August Wilson, the dejected figure of a man seated at the table in Romare Berdon's painting, Mill Hand's Lunch Bucket, characterized Loomis, who'd be different from everybody else. The dining room is also where the residents of the boarding house gather and develop their relationships among one another. By comparison, the parlor room is hardly used in the play. It is, however, important when depicting the scenes of Seth and Bynum playing dominoes, and a moment when Bynum sings the song he'd been singing carelessly throughout the play, Joe Turner's Come and Gone, as Loomis is present at the dining table. Upon hearing the song, Loomis becomes furious at Bynum and reveals the true meaning behind the title. Joe Turner had been the man who had kidnapped Loomis among other African American men and enslaved him, separating him from his wife Martha he'd been looking for, and Sonia, who'd just been born, for 7 years. The furniture in this play mainly serves a supplemental purpose, considering it is mostly character-run. For practical reasons, the items I've constructed out of cardboard are plain and simple, but still remain accurate to the time, since it was common for lower and middle-class households in the early 1900s to have this type of furniture. The colors chosen for this set are specific to mimic the room in Berdon's painting. In his works, Berdon used a number of patterns and colors to portray the vibrant lives of African Americans. When constructing my set, I followed this technique. I happen to have an abundance of printed mail colleges and universities sent out recently, and use the printed portions of them to build the backdrop. Some of the paper is ripped, others cut out, have words printed on them, resemble a pattern, are plain or drawn over, or corrugated. Although in the play a gloomy and dismal mood is established by the troublesome circumstances the characters face, the colors on the wall illuminate the true vividness their lives have through the experiences they share together. Challenges of building the set included, well, the entirety of it, as it is the first time I've attempted such a project. One major challenge at the very beginning was after I did a rough sketch of the floor plan inside my head, because I realized the archway I envisioned to divide the parlor room from the dining/kitchen room could not be placed, as a wall would block the right audience's view from the left side and vice versa, the left audience's view of the right side. So after scratching that out, I tried to imagine the sliding door Wilson had put in the description for the play. However, none of my ideas were practical and could work with the space provided for me within the dimensions of the box. I then moved on to look through the sets other set designers have made in the past and noticed they improvised in formatting the floor plans. To improvise myself, I finally decided I'd use the image that inspired Wilson to write this play in the first place, Milhan's Lunch Bucket. A success I had was replicating the background that can be seen from the window in Berdon's painting. Besides the foliage on the wall beside it, the collage of the city stood out most to me. Another part of the construction of the set I consider a success was the slow progress I made constructing the furniture to come out cleaner than the next with better details, such as the icebox. I'd say in total it took about 27 hours to physically build the set and cost about $50.29 for extra decorative items. This includes Bynum's basket with his weeds, the lunch bucket belonging to Seth, and that'd be it. Oh, and the lamp. All additional research, reference images, sketches of the ground plans are in my research notebook. This concludes my presentation for building the set of August Wilson's Joe Turner's Come and Gone. Thank you for listening.